Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to day two of our What Happens Next series. If you're tuning in for the first time, What Happens Next basically is a series where we talk to various different artists, arts managers, practitioners from all over the world, and we're talking about the main question, which is what happens next. So we have a very special guest with us today, and just give me a minute while I. But to give you a quick introduction, um, yes,
Peace.
well, I was
What's
just
up,
about
Shreya?
to introduce you.
Oh, did I accept too early?
It's fine, it's cool. I'll introduce you anyway. So we have Hakim Dough with us. He is an arts administrator, songwriter, hip hop artist. He's also the executive director of Art of Culture, which used to be called Danda's House, which is named after Kanye West's mother. He does some fantastic work with the community in south side of Chicago. Do you want to tell them a little bit more about your role there?
Yeah, my role at Art of Culture. I began as a participant in the organization, being an MC, being a writer. The programs that was offered at the time when it was Donda's House for young artists. Then I volunteered. I became the communications director and began operating communications for the organization. And eventually, the executive director recently has stepped down. And they saw fit that I be the executive director, currently the assistant executive director, interim, as we are making the transition. Um, yeah, and so with that being my trajectory, I really do a number of things in the organization. So I'm a teaching artist as well as an administrator on the administrative strategic side of things
Mm-hmm.
and the communications.
Fantastic. So Hakim and I go back about 5 years, and can be fun. It's quite a lot of time. And we've done many. We've worked on many projects together. We did a revenue generation project for Harvard Street Dance Theatre, which was pretty fun, intense but a fun project. We were also marketing consultants for a magazine called
FW.
do you remember that? Yeah,
Yes.
Chicago FW. So, I mean, it's been so. I think we kind of understand each other from various different perspectives because we've been hands-on learning and working with real clients and real projects. So thank you so much for being on our series. I'm going to jump right in because the series is about what happens next. And I know you. I wanted before we start. I read about a fantastic campaign that you have called Teens, Hoodies, and Studio Time, where you give aspiring Chicago artists free studio time in a professional setting, which is such a fantastic idea. How did you come up with it, and where is the project right now amidst the whole COVID, um, pandemic?
So the idea came about for the project through my philosophy is always doing what I can at the level that I'm at. So not waiting until I've accumulated massive amounts of success and wealth to think that then is the appropriate time to give back.
Mm.
So I'm always looking for value adds inside of what it is that I do for things I care about. So like the youth that I work with was the case. And so yeah, it was really just in creating a quality product that meant a lot sentimentally to the project, the album that I released, Thank You for the Shy, and then um, yeah, creating a demand and leaving a a profit margin in it to where I could just out of pocket pay uh,
Good.
for what it is that I pledged, and then
Mm.
partner with other people who would be willing to go in on it with me to make it even that much more impactful. And so that partnership exists with Art of Culture, who is a community
Mhm.
partner, the organization, as well as Maps for Music, which is it's a studio as well as an incubator of sorts for artists to get an understanding of the arts and the music business.
Mhm.
And that's actually where we're going to have the studio time for the teens. They're providing that, and they've matched me. So yeah.
Okay, that's pretty good. And so can you walk us through what's happening in Chicago right now with COVID, with the, I'm guessing you have at least a soft lockdown from what I understand. What's happening with the art scene there and with shows? I know they've all been canceled, but
Yeah.
generally, how are the artists handling it?
Um, I mean, I've been isolating real good, so I, I, I don't know
I'm sure
how.
you're
I do
brilliant.
have some artist friends, so I do have some artist friends. So I'll speak to what I've been experiencing, and the
Right.
friends who I know are artists that have been going through. And I think, for the most part, we've just been using it as time to continue to cultivate what it is that we are working on. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's for sure the society we'll be in after this is not going to be the same. I just don't know if anybody has a clear picture on exactly what that is. And so, like, the
Mm-hmm.
best bet is to just, plan for, uh, that great idea that you had. I saw a Smino post. It's still a good idea. Like, continue with it. And so, like, I think a lot of people around me have been moving in that spirit, in that vein.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing how far out have they canceled shows for? Just give us an idea. About a couple of months?
So I'm not sure because it's on an individual basis. So the government
Right.
hasn't like mandated no shows per se. However, the people who are producing shows are
Mm-hmm.
canceling, I'm guessing because of the constraints and the buildup or the lack of ability to actually pull it off with the
Mm-hmm.
shutdown date being as close to whenever the event is.
Right.
So I'm not really sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
But for you, for example, and you've canceled out shows obviously because it's a safety hazard, right? To have people getting together this time. Are you moving to more of an online platform to present some of that work?
So
Oops. Is he? I think he's just maybe the internet. Is he freezing for you too? Is he frozen for you too? It's not frozen. Anyway, I will talk till he comes. With the scene in Chicago is, let me try and get him back. I think he might have just dropped off. Is that they have cancelled shows, but like they said, it's unlike India, it's not a strong mandate where they have kept it to the point and said, until so and so date, you can't have get togethers. So it's interesting to see how artists are coping in various different ways. And like he said, and what we were discussing earlier also, was that artists are really going more inward at this point. Hi,
back. Hey, what's up? I accidentally
I was
clicked the
just
button
feeling
at the top
for
left.
you.
Don't do that.
I was just feeling
But
for
yeah,
you and talking. So you left off saying that artists were just that for you, for example, how far out have you cancelled shows, and are you moving to different platforms to present these shows for the next couple of
um,
months?
so I street perform when it gets hot. So I didn't have any venue shows lined up.
Mm.
So street performing has been affected, right? Because
Okay.
nobody's supposed to be outside, and I'm
Yeah.
unsure of how that's going to look actually when I get back to street performing, um,
Right.
because I mean, the whole thing with money and being in close proximity, and like I
Right.
actually just was awarded a grant from DK's to implement
Oh.
a street performance tour around Chicago. Um,
Oh, that must be fun.
right, it was lit. I was excited for it, and I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna play out. If it's gonna be something that I'm gonna just wait to do next year, if it's something that
Yeah.
I'm going to, um, you know, just pitch to do something different with the funds. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so.
So, for example, with your organization, with Art of Culture, how are you guys working on your strategic plan for the next couple of months? And because you have a program, right, that you run with the youth from South Side of Chicago. So is that on pause? And how are you planning to kind of roll that out going forward?
So our programming is already semi on pause. Some of
Mm.
our like classroom artistic development as we go through this transition of branding and direction. However, we
Mm-hmm.
had some big programming with partners such as our partnership with the city to do uh, Blues Fest, which happens
Mm.
in Millennium
Oh.
Park. We do some programming
Mm-hmm.
for that. So it's called Bridges to the Blues, where we
Mm.
connect young hip hop artists with established and seasoned blues um, artists from Chicago in an attempt
Oh,
to
nice.
bridge the cultural gap, and they perform. So that's been canceled, uh, of course, because it takes place in the summer. Uh, it brings out a lot of people. It's a city property.
Yeah.
So we were also planning something with the Bucket Boys in Chicago to
Mm-hmm.
kind of shed more light on what they bring to the city culturally and
Mm-hmm.
connecting them with contemporary artists as well, and really just providing some marketing around the staple that they are in the city and providing them
Right.
with the respect and appreciation that we feel that they deserve. And
Right.
there was a trip with the performers that was supposed to happen in New York, like
Mm-hmm.
as soon as this hit.
Mm.
So when that hit, that got canceled. So it's just
Mm.
kind of like collateral of things that aren't happening, and the best thing we can really do without knowing is to just watch how things play out.
Correct. So, in your expertise, in your because you've been working in this field and with art of culture now for 2 years and in various different capacities, how do you think, as arts administrators, we should be moving forward?
I mean, personally, so I just launched
Personally.
a program yesterday. Um, it is raps and resumes. So, I mean, you familiar? We were in class together, so we learned and gathered some of the same skills for web development, copywriting, um, business, marketing, planning. And when I look at my value as a human being, like even more so than an artist, like I feel like my art is a gift. It's a draw. It
Mm.
gets attention. It provides insight. But there are more skills, right? And
Mm.
I think for artists, personally, I think what this has shown is that I think people are going to want more from their artists, right? Like to just simply be entertained isn't enough. And so
Yep.
for me, I think that transition is becoming more infocentric
Mm.
and as well as service centric. So like continuing with my art and providing art and doing what it is that I do culturally and combining that in a strategic way to where the audience that appreciates what I
Right.
do is actually receiving something that's
Right.
tangible that's going to help them through this time that we're going through. And I think also a lot of that happens digitally because of
Mm.
what's happening.
Are some of the okay, some artists can support themselves for a couple of months when they don't have work coming in. How
Mm.
are some of, I'm sure not everybody can support themselves like that. Even some simple things like groceries and paying rent, the basics. Do you know of any initiatives in Chicago which is, or even DKs perhaps, who are helping artists?
Yeah, so I think
Same.
DCase, the city, the mayor, like as soon as it hit, like even before I think we knew like it was gonna be extensive, as extensive as it has been,
Mm-hmm.
there was like messages coming out about like applying for this funding, relief funding. Three Arts is an organization that I saw things from immediately. DCase, the city signing off, and so not only the funds that they were already planning to release, but creating different pools of funds. And
Right.
yeah, so I think their reaction to what has happened for artists specifically has been it's definitely appreciated. I'll say that.
Okay, that's good. Good to have support, right? In this
And
kind of
not a
time.
lot of barriers. Like I remember, like one of them that I saw is it's really just applying and submitting,
Mhm.
and like it's not like an extensive process for a lot of it,
Good. So
which
it's
is good.
easier to access those funds. Um,
Yeah.
just a couple of last pointers. What do you think artists should be doing next? Uh, like you said, you always said it's a good time to think inward, looking at how to make yourself relevant and your content exactly, and how you're going to curate going forward. Apart from that, from the business end, would you? Because I think there's a shift that's going to occur sooner than later because of our current scenario. But the good thing is we're also going to be opening up to larger markets if we move into a digital presence, if we can figure out a way to revenue generate with a higher production quality. What would you be some, because we discussed this yesterday on how I firmly believe there will be a shift. What do you think artists should be doing that way from a business and standpoint in order to prepare? Because like this is the time we need to start thinking about the future, right? And our next steps.
Um, for live shows specifically, or just in general?
How whatever you want to talk to about, whichever point you want to
Hmm.
address.
I mean, so there's so many different sectors and industries of art,
Yes.
um, and ways that it's consumed, right? So
If we were to
for
talk about live performance, for example.
I mean, I think the key to getting over anything may be collaboration. So like
Mm.
you're like music is something that is enhanced when you're somewhere in the presence of it
Mm-hmm.
and it's happening
Mm-hmm.
live. However, it
Mm-hmm.
has a long history of performing well without being present. So you can listen to
Right.
it and enjoy it. And so the combination of music, like Drake recently dropping a song that's like a dance song. And like I don't think everything has to be as formulaic or as like lined like that. However,
Yeah.
I do think it's an opportunity to
Yeah.
present artworks in collaboration, like dancers and music. So I created this song, and there's this troupe of dancers who's going to create um, a customized dance or routine or even something just improvisational to it, and then it's packaged and presented to people in that way, to where
Mm.
most people can benefit. Definitely, I think digital space. I think in terms of like live, it's going to depend on what type of government sanctions exist, right? So if there's a
Right.
certain amount of people can be in a venue, um,
Mm.
that may work in art's favor. I mean, it may create a situation where the price of tickets are
Mm.
that more valuable, and the shows become that much more intimate, uh, possibly, or just deter people from going at all, and like that whole that whole sector just like crumbles.
Cool. Thank you for tuning in and for being speakers. And continue to do the fantastic work that you do. Do you want to tell them about your website where they can go check out your music?
Yeah, so you can check out my music at hakimdough.com. That's HAK. I put it in here. Um, You can check me out on all the streaming platforms, Apple Music, Tidal, Spotify. My music is there. Check out the Teens and Hoodies campaign that's currently going on, as well as the service, the Raps and Resume service, is Name Your Price. So if you know of anyone who is in need of resume or some professional career development work on that end. Um,
Fantastic. I love talking to Chicago artists specifically, and I'm so glad we got to connect with you.
Stop talking to me. It's cool.
And we will catch you soon. Follow us for our other What Happens Next series. It's tomorrow at 10:30 India time, AM India time, where we're going to be talking to a sound engineer from Bombay. But for now, thank you, Hakim,
Thank you.
and stay safe. Continue to inspire. I'm looking forward to your next video, at
Can I
least for
ask you a
sure.
question? Because I feel like it may be some people in
Doesn't
here.
really work that way, but okay.
I mean, I feel like there are people who came in here who know me who don't know you. So I'm just curious as to what the current situation is on the ground for you and artists and in India, because you're in India.
You were asking, I lost you there for the question. Can you just repeat that?
What the current situation is on the ground for the arts and artists where you are?
So in India, things have kind of come to a pause, and we are in a full, like the whole country is in a lockdown till early May. And even after that, a lot of predictions are that, we still can't have gatherings, we're going to have social distancing and things like that. So we're going to really look at various different ways of how we're going to present the arts. But artists, yeah, I mean, there are some artists who have saved up and who are in a situation to kind of go through this period and survive this period almost. But there are a lot of artists who need urgent funds and need to be supported. And they're not only in the city, but also all across, rural India. Because these, at least in South India and in my state of Tamil Nadu, these are the 5 months where they have all the big festivals. And a lot of the the public performances happen now. And so this is a lot of revenue that they will generally generate for the rest of the year that they're going to lose. So for example, that's how like my organization and a few others, we've been raising funds on a small scale when we get a call from artists specifically asking for help or through our networks. But yeah, I mean, I think the arts industry is going to be hit pretty bad. And I think it's up to us, managers and administrators, to think through this now and figure out what are the possible solutions and start testing it and roll out a model and be ready for it. I think a crisis is inevitable. If it's not this, it's going to be something else. But I think we need to have that foresight to kind of be prepared for anything that comes our way. And that's kind of how this whole series was started, because I was personally talking to many different people on the way forward. And I said, okay, why don't we just make this as a public series? Because I think there's a lot to be learned. And I think we need to share knowledge at this point and exchange, collaborate. Instead of having these conversations in smaller private circles, let's just have it out in the open, because you never know what's going to come out of it. You never know what's going to work. And maybe it's going to be a small thing from various different conversations that we can put together. But this whole series is really experimenting with that, what happens next, and critically thinking about the future and being prepared for it. So we're not shocked 3 months down if something crashes, that we're ready for it.
Sure, for sure. I definitely think together is the way forward. So I appreciate you inviting me on to speak. I had a
And thanks for the role reversal, typically your style. Great.
yeah.
Thanks, Hakim. I will
Gotcha.
talk to you.
All right,
Thank
have
you,
a good one.
everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you soon.